everyone, and welcome back to the Bliss Bean. So today's video is going to be on what I think is the most important thing you can do for your productivity, and that is time tracking. Hopefully that was dramatic enough. So I think time tracking is a pretty self-explanatory term, but just in case, it's basically tracking what you do during the day and how long it takes you to do each thing. And why do I think it's so important? Because other productivity techniques might promise to make you more productive, and you might feel like you're being more productive, but you don't really know unless you actually know how much time you're spending on everything. So people do this in different ways. I know that some people use paper, especially people who already have a bullet journal. It kind of fits in quite nicely with that system. They might have a line going down the paper and they write in what they did, or some people use a grid-based system where each square of a grid represents like a 10 or 15 minute chunk and they just fill in what they did during that chunk of the day. Some people use spreadsheets, so like Excel or Google Sheets. They fill out their timetable and then they just put in what they did. That does have the advantage of being digital, so you can take that data and do different things with it, like having the spreadsheet calculate percentages for you automatically, or making graphs if you're a nerd like I am. But I don't like either of those systems because, I don't know about you, but my day is definitely not broken up into like clean 10 or 15 minute chunks. There are tasks that take 5 minutes for me to do that I still want to keep track of. And then also I think it just takes a lot of like manual labor to fill everything in and have to remember to update your spreadsheet or update your paper grid. So what I use is my phone. A lot of people use apps for time tracking, and the specific app that I use is Now Then Pro. This is the best app I've been able to find. This is not sponsored, I just really love this app. There's a free version called Now Then Free, and then a pro version called Now Then Pro. The pro version I believe costs $2.99. And as far as I know, or at least when I bought it, it was a one-time payment, which is really nice. It's only available on the App Store though. I'm sure there are Android alternatives though. Some other apps I've heard of, there's this one called Harvest and another one called Time Camp. I don't know about Apple or Android availabilities on those, but I have heard that those are other apps that serve a similar purpose. So I'm going to take you guys through this app and teach you how to use it. The first tab here is called Now. And then the second tab is called Then. That's why it's called Now Then Pro. Get it? Okay, so the first tab is called Now, and this is where you do all of your time tracking. So when you want to start a new task, you just click on the play button next to it. When you want to stop it, you click the stop button, or you can just click right on the play button of another task and it'll automatically switch. As you can see, there are also categories. So I have the category of routines, and within it I have my morning routine and my bedtime routine. In my school category, I have all of the different classes I was taking. Now I'll show you where you set up these categories. So there's this plus button in the corner, and if you click that, you can create a new task. So you just put in the name of a task, and let's do underwater basket weaving, and then you can choose to make it like its own standalone task, or you can put it under another category. So I'll just put that under school. So now within my school category, I'll see underwater basket weaving as an option. You can do an abbreviation. I don't want to do that. And then set a color, and I always just let it set it automatically. You can change it later. You can move it around to a different parent category. You can add subtasks later. You can also add subtasks right here from this menu. So I'm gonna add a couple. I'll do research. Let's see, gathering materials, weaving. Okay, so now let's see what that looks like. If I go to school, I've got this new category and all these subtasks within it. So I can click play on, for example, research, but I can also click play on the broader category if I don't want to track a specific subtask of underwater basket weaving. The next tab is the Then tab. So let's see, this is today. Basically, this shows you like a schedule, a timetable, and it takes all the data that you got from recording your tasks and it makes it into this color-coded, blocked out schedule. You can zoom in and out, you can tap on a task and see exactly how much time you spent on it. And then another really useful feature is obviously sometimes you forget to record a task or you mess up or something, so you can just add tasks right into here. So actually I forgot that I was up at 4 a.m. doing underwater basket weaving, so I'm just gonna add that in real quick, and then I can also click and delete. There's also a weekly view, so as you can see, it's really cool. And then there's a monthly view, which I personally don't really find use in because this is a little crazy. It's kind of cool to see though. The next thing I'm going to show you is the chart view. I don't use this a ton, but it definitely is useful because with any planning system, I think it's important to review. You're gathering all of this useful data, but you have to look back on it to actually learn something from it. So as with the previous section, you can switch from a daily view to a weekly view to a monthly view to a yearly view. So you can either view it as a bar graph or you can view it as a pie chart. And then at the top here, this little sum symbol, you can click on it to either group up your tasks by the large categories or to break everything up into its smallest subtasks. So for example, if I turn this off, you can see that I've got some blog tasks, so social media and YouTube. But if I click on this, then it groups all of the blog tasks into one big category. And then another really cool feature is that you can use filters. And so I'll do an example of something I actually do quite often. I like to check up on how much time I spend on homework for different classes. So if I go to filter by, if I go to school and then I say, I'll just do this year, so this is going to be second semester only, and I set this filter, and I go to the yearly view, I can see how much time I spend on each different class. Now this is kind of annoying because it shows it all as orange, but if you go down here you can see that class I spent the most time on second semester was bio. I hardly spent any time on biomed. So what I've just shown you might seem like a lot of work and you might be thinking, why bother to do this? I know I'm productive, I don't need an app to see that I'm being productive, and I would just like to try and convince you that even if you think you are super productive, try time tracking, because I think a lot of people have had very interesting discoveries where they realize that where they thought their time was going is really not at all how their time is being distributed. So I'm just going to break it down into the main reasons that I think you should time track. Number one is it gives you a really accurate picture of how you spend your time. So sometimes we have things that we do that we think take forever, but they really don't. So an example is last year I was a layout editor for my school's newspaper, and that was a kind of job where I basically had a big monthly task that I needed to do. So that one week when we would do layout for the newspaper, it would take me anywhere from 10 to 15 hours to put together the newspaper. And so that week the newspaper was a big part of my life. But if I look at the month as a whole, 10 to 15 hours of working on it per month really isn't that much in the grand scope of things. And so time tracking helped me realize that my commitment to the newspaper really isn't taking up that much of my time. And then conversely, there are other things that we think don't take up a lot of our time, but they really do. And that's usually distractions like YouTube, for example, watching YouTube videos. It honestly is amazing how quickly time escapes you when you're doing something like that. And time tracking really forces you to confront how much time you're spending on things like that. Another thing that time tracking helps with is it helps you plan your day better. I think time tracking and planning are intertwined. When you plan out your day well and you set priorities and then you use time tracking to make sure that you really are spending time on those priorities and not on distractions, that's like a killer combo. A third thing is time tracking will hopefully stop you from multitasking. I think we've all heard that multitasking is not truly multitasking. You're just single tasking while being distracted. And the app's limitation of literally having to input one single task for any point of the day, that really helps you focus more. And it trains you to really view your work time on a specific task as work time for just that task. Now, of course, there is some ambiguity. So, for example, sometimes while I drive, I listen to podcasts, and driving and listening to podcasts are two separate tasks that I have in my setup. And so then I'm not sure what to put in. My advice is usually I try to think about it like this. If I had to just pick one of these tasks to be doing right now, which one would I be doing? And obviously it's driving because I have somewhere to go. The podcast part is just like an add-on. But honestly, don't worry about it. You don't have to worry about the little details like that because I think it'll all balance out in the end anyways. And that's the kind of multitasking that you really don't have to worry about. Like driving and listening to podcasts, I think is a great use of time. Another thing, I think it's number 4, time tracking helps you journal. So I am someone who doesn't have a great memory. At the end of the day when I sit down to journal, sometimes I don't remember what I did that day. And so then I just open up my app and I literally have like a nice color-coded blocked out schedule of what I did that day, and I can use that to write out my journal entry because it like sparks memories of what I want to write about. And then lastly, I think time tracking is something that fits in really well with other techniques. So for example, I like to use the Pomodoro technique, which is 25 minutes of working paired with 5-minute breaks, and I really like doing that with the time tracking app because I can really see like the 25-minute chunks spaced out with little breaks. Another technique is the getting things done technique. I don't personally use it, but I have done a course on it, and I think that you could really find value in like fleshing out your tasks and your projects and then using time tracking to figure out how much time each of your projects and tasks is taking. So is time tracking hard? I don't think so. I don't remember if I thought it was hard when I started. Probably. Like any habit, it's gonna be difficult to get into. Honestly, once you do it enough, it just becomes ingrained in you. Like when I go on vacation, I don't track time because it's vacation, but I still like feel this urge whenever I switch tasks to go on my phone and record that. And I even sometimes just open up the app out of force of habit. I would say just stick with it. If you're not even sure if it's something you want to do, just like test drive it for a week. There's no downside to doing it. You'll definitely learn something about yourself in the process, but I think if you really make it like a life habit and you stick with it indefinitely, it has a lot of power to make you more productive. So yeah, that's all I have to say about time tracking. I also did a blog post on this topic, I think a couple of months ago, so you should also check that out. I could talk about time tracking all day, honestly. Let me know if you found this useful, if you're gonna try it, if you have any other methods for time tracking that I didn't mention on here. I wish you the best of luck in your time tracking and productivity efforts, and I'll see you next time. Bye!